And the angels have shown me that when it comes to interacting with other people and dynamics, relational dynamics between people on psychic levels, one of the number one things that causes so much damage in relationships are expectations. And one of the number one things that we damage ourselves with are expectations. And we can clear expectations really easily, with energy work. And you'll find that when you clear your self-imposed expectations, you'll be able to achieve more. And when you clear those expectations that others are putting onto you, your relationship will improve. And when you release those expectations that you're putting out, you'll have more power. You'll have more power because it takes your personal energy to create these. And most of the time, we're not going around consciously creating expectations to put on to other people. We're not like, okay, I'm going to have my list of expectations and like writing them in my journal. I expect my daughter to listen to me when I tell her to go go to bed and eat her dinner. No, that most of them are really subconscious. We're not really fully consciously aware of them. And also, a lot of our expectations that we carry, we have from just patterning and programming or life or socialization. There's a lot of social expectations. Those would be like social norms. And it's not totally accepted, but it's not totally unusual to see a child throw themselves on the floor in a restaurant. But what if I threw myself on the floor in a restaurant, right? There is an expectation that adults don't throw themselves on the floor in restaurants when they're upset, right? Right? And if they do, you think that, they're on something. And so there's so many expectations. There's so many expectations in the world. And what would the consequence be? Well, judgment in that case, right? If I threw myself on the floor in a restaurant, well, what would the consequence be? Well, it would be judgment. People would be judging me, and then maybe they might even call the authorities because they might think something's wrong with me. So, an expectation is a psychic broadcast in energy that carries a punishment. It carries a punishment or a consequence. And a perfect example is a relationship, right? You get into a relationship with someone, it's just what it is. You get into a relationship with someone, a monogamous relationship with someone, what's the expectation? Fidelity and honesty. Those are the two expectations. The woman expects her boyfriend or husband to be faithful and to be honest. And it's legitimate, right? Like that's a legitimate request to have. So you're like, Leah, that's a fair thing, right? That's reasonable. That's reasonable to want your partner to be faithful and to be honest with you. Yes, yes, it is. But there's an alternative that's going to preserve your power and your sovereignty and your energy because an expectation's always going to weaken you. An expectation's always going to weaken you. And you're going to see what I'm talking about here in a minute. So, keeping in mind that the expectation puts the power of your feeling, if it's your expectation, that expectation that you have puts power in the other person. Okay, like let's say I'm in a relationship and I have a boyfriend and I'm like, okay, if you cheat on me, I'm gonna be all brokenhearted, I'm gonna be really upset, I'm gonna be really mad. That's what this psychic expectation is communicating. If you lie to me and cheat on me, I'm going to be brokenhearted. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be all the things. What did I just hand over? Right? What did I just hand over with that expectation? I handed over control of my emotional state. I handed over control of my emotional state and wellness to someone else based on their behaviors. If their behaviors don't match what I would expect them to do for me, then I'm going to get really upset. That gives them power over my emotional state. I'm not going to give my power over my emotional state away. So what's the alternative? What's the alternative? And I have to say, if someone else has power over your emotional state, well, on a psychic subconscious level, well, they can control you that way, psychically, subconsciously. And of course, there's going to be entities that are going to come in and be like, oh, she's going to get really upset if he does this. So we really want him to do this because if she gets really upset, then we can take her power. Mwahaha. And they'll do that. Entities and attachments will get on him, try to instigate him or tempt him or all these things so that he'll do that, so I'll get mad and then all my mad and fear and blah, 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 all that emotion entity can benefit from. So how do you keep your power? What's the alternative to an expectation? The alternative to an expectation is a standard with a boundary. So if I say, well, my standard is that a man I'm in a relationship with is honest and faithful. And my boundary is that if you're not honest and faithful, well, then I will not choose to be in a relationship with you. I keep my power that way. I keep my power that way. Boundary can be whatever I want it to be. Boundary can be, well, if you're going to be that way, well, then if you're going to be dishonest, then I'm not going to have any respect for you anymore, and I'm going to lower your level of priority in my life. You decide the boundary. You have your standard, you have your boundary, and you choose whatever standard you want and whatever boundary you want to be associated with that standard. But you're holding on the power. You're holding all the power in that instance. Now, um, you know, my personal experience with a friend that I had who had an expectation that was beyond friendship that I didn't meet and it wasn't communicated to me. So when I didn't meet that expectation that my friend had that went beyond friendship, but he's not communicating to me like, hey, I'm interested in you beyond friendship. He's never communicating that to me verbally, but he's having an expectation. I don't know what his expectation was. All I know is that there was an expectation there that went beyond friendship, and I broke his expectation, and he punished me for it psychically. And I was even asking him, I was like, something wrong? You want to clear the air on something? Did I upset you? I gave him a lot of little opportunities by naming it, but he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to name it. He didn't want to say, well, I had this expectation and you're not meeting it. So he was just psychically punishing me for it. So standard with a boundary protects your power. Expectation hands your power over. The other thing about expectations is they can have a counter effect. They can very often have a counter effect. You know, have you ever had an experience where you wanted to do something, but then somebody was being so forceful to you to do it, it made you not want to do it? Like you're like, I would have done that anyway, but now that you're being all forceful with me to do it, now I don't want to. Because nobody wants to feel like they were being forced into something. And the expectation can make you feel like you're being forced into something. And it just makes me think about the instance with a teenage boy who's getting bad grades in school, and his dad was just like, had such an intense expectation that he graduates. And his dad was like, oh, on him, on him, on him. And this teenage boy confided in me. He was like, I'm struggling with my grades. I really want to graduate, but my dad being on me is just making me want to drop out. Now, if his dad would have just relaxed on him and let him have his agency and let him find his way, or at least supported him in improving his grades, he would have graduated. But it was his father's expectations that were so intense and so restrictive, that and so dominating that he dropped out just because he couldn't take the expectations from his father anymore. He wanted to graduate, but it meant more to him that he gets away from his father's expectations. There might be a time when you want to do something, but if someone tells you you have to do it, then you're gonna be like, never mind, I'm not gonna do it. I don't want to do it anymore. And that's how expectations are, but they're happening all psychically. They're all happening subconsciously. So, but what happens when we put expectations on ourselves? What happens when we put expectations on ourselves? The other thing about an expectation is that you're never gonna feel satisfied. You're always gonna move that goalpost. So you keep yourself in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction and disappointment with yourself. Let's say you create an expectation for yourself and you meet that expectation. Do you ever go, yay, I celebrate me? No, you're just gonna raise the bar on yourself, raise the bar on yourself, raise the bar on yourself, you're never gonna feel like you've reached any level of achievement when it's an expectation. And what ends up happening when that happens, you're going to get discouraged. You're going to be like, what's the point in trying? And I never achieve there. I never get there. And I personally experienced this with my content. I had all these expectations on myself to create, or do this, or do that, or create this, or create that, or do this, or do that. And they were so intense for so many years. And that was what was stopping me from creating. And it wasn't until I cleared all those personal expectations that I put on myself that I started creating. It just freed me up and it was instant. It was instant. So if there's anything that you feel blocked at doing in your life, but you put these really intense expectations on yourself, and you may not be consciously aware of your expectations either. A lot of our personal expectations that we put on ourselves are actually subconscious. We don't even realize we're doing it. But once you clear them, it opens you up. It opens you up to have those breakthroughs. So, and it frees up a lot of your energy too, because a lot of energy goes into an expectation creation. Expectation creation takes a lot of energy. So when you clear those personal expectations you put on others, you put on yourself, whoo, you get a lot of power back. And it opens you up. You feel freer. You feel freer because you don't feel so restricted by any sort of conditions. Because expectations, they also have conditions. Like there's so much. An expectation is just a psychic freaking thing that restricts you. And let's talk about expectations that other people put onto you that you may or may not agree to. Now, I'm going to share a short story. I got with my car broken down and I'm trying to buy a new car. So I'm having to go to a car lot to buy a new car, but I don't have a vehicle to get to the car lot. So I'm doing the Uber thing. So I get this Uber driver and she was like super cute. She's super cute, young 20-year-old girl, or she's in her 20s, really pretty, really sweet. I'm new to the Uber world, right? She's driving and she goes, uh-oh. And I think it has something to do with the ride. And I'm like, is everything okay? Like, what happened? She's like, oh no, it's this guy. I gave him my number. She goes on to tell me the story about this guy. She gave her number to, and she's like, I hung out with him once, but now he's blowing up my phone, and there's a lot of red flags with him, and I'm just not interested. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I was like, well, you don't have to explain anything to anybody. Like you don't owe anybody anything. She's like, well, what would you do? And I told her I'd ghost him, just block him. Like, you don't owe your energy to anybody, especially not if there's red flags and he's blowing up your phone, he's being disrespectful. You especially don't owe anything. But the moral of the story, what does this have to do with expectations? He put an expectation on her, and his expectation on her was that she be what he wanted her to be, which was a woman who was ready and able to accept what he had to offer, what he wanted, or a woman that would give him what he wanted from her. And some psychic subconscious part of her accepted that. And so she's having this whole thing of like, well, I feel like it would be wrong to just ghost him. Why? Because that goes against his expectation of her that she accepted. And that's a permission. We are so socialized to obligate ourselves to other people psychically, energetically, when we shouldn't be doing that at all. You own your sovereignty, honor your sovereignty. You don't owe your energy, your time, your attention, your text message, your phone call to anybody ever, no matter what they want from you. But we're always doing this. If you get a text message and you feel like, oh, I have to hurry and respond to that text because I don't want to offend that person, or I don't want that person to think I don't like them, or that I'm mad at them, or that I don't care about them. These are all just examples of expectations we put on ourselves or that other people are putting on us, and where we can give accidental permission. I know it was really just a lot of a rant, but you can begin to think about it and think, wow, that is how my energy ends up being leaked out, or how other people's energy comes in, just through expectations. So we're going to scan now for expectations. And the way that we're going to scan for expectations is, first, let's get the ones you put on yourself out of the way, out of the way. And we can put expectations on ourselves in many areas of our life. I have an expectation I put on myself. I don't like to go to bed with a dirty kitchen. So I put an expectation on myself to do my dishes before I go to bed. But sometimes it gets late and I didn't get to them, and I'll be friggin' there doing dishes 11:30 at night, wishing I wasn't, resenting it. But I know that if I don't do dishes before I go to bed, I'm going to be mad at myself in the morning. That's going to be the consequence. That's going to be the punishment. You see? I'll be like, oh, I'm mad. I'll be punishing myself in the morning. I'll be like, I'm so mad that I didn't do the dishes. Why did I do the dishes? I hate waking up to a dirty kitchen. Oh my God, I should have just done the dishes. But that's just a small example. But you're hitting yourself with your own angry energy. That's not good to do. So ask yourself, am I putting any expectations on myself? And the angels are saying we can go ahead and categorize this, but they don't want me to do too many categories. So we'll just break it down. We'll do home, relationships, finances. Okay. Home, relationships, finances. And if you feel like there's a category you want to add or one in your life that you feel like you should do instead, then go ahead. But they're telling me just go ahead and do home, relationships, finances because yeah, career. Yeah, career, finances, career. We could do career. Yeah. So let's do career. But if you don't have a career, then finances or however your relationship to money, right? Because I think career is kind of this, yeah, do career. So what expectations do I have? And we'll start with that career. What expectations do I have of myself when it comes to my career? When it comes to what I feel like I should be doing or not doing? And then asking yourself, and do I see an image? Ask your energy to show you an image of anything that's going to represent those expectations. Now, I like to use papers, stacks of papers. Like, do I see a stack of papers? Do I see a stack of papers that are representing expectations? Okay. I see a pretty big stack of expectations and for myself when it comes to my career. And what's interesting is there are multiple colors. It's interesting. Like I'll see like the bottom part of my stack's like green, and then there's like this big black brick kind of there, and then there's like some yellow. They're like kind of color coded. I don't know what's up with all these different colors. I don't know what that big brick thing is. It doesn't matter. Like what you can analyze it if you want for a psychic exercise. But the goal here is just clear it. Just clear it, right? Any of these expectations that I have, and maybe I've had them my whole life. Maybe at the very bottom of this expectation career stack is expectations that I put on myself when I first entered the job market as a 15-year-old and I was bussing tables at a restaurant, you know? Or so taking all of that or any expectations that others put on me, like maybe there's expectations in there that resulted from the expectations that came from my boss when I first started bussing tables. You see how they can all kind of end up getting together? So I'm taking this whole stack of expectations, and you know what? I'm just going to create. I'm going to create a little burn barrel for all of them. So it's making my magical burn barrel. Shh, there's my magical burn barrel. Wait, this can be my magical burn barrel. No, there's my magical burn barrel. See? Whoop, whoop. I'm taking my whole stack of expectations that I put on myself for my career, for my business. Oh, it's just like, and just burning it all, releasing it all. Or handing it to your divine team, introducing it with some high frequency healing energy, Reiki. However, we're ripping them up. The goal is just that you're consciously affirming to release the subconscious energy. The angels have something to say to me, and I'm going to listen to what they have to say. They're saying sometimes it's not as easy as just clearing the expectation. They're saying sometimes what you want to do, I'm going to listen to what they're saying. Oh, okay. So what they're pointing out to me is that we don't want to leave a vacancy, right? Let's not leave a vacancy. We want to replace it with a standard because they're saying if we clear all of our expectations, we might feel we might be more inclined to just create a new expectation or to create it again because there's going to be a vacancy. So we want to transform. We want to transform to the standard. So instead of me saying to myself, I expect myself to have my kitchen clean before I go to bed every single night. I can say my standard is that I go to bed with a clean kitchen. My boundary is that if I don't clean the kitchen when I go to bed at night, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll do the dishes. And that frees me up from putting that like heaviness on myself. No less self-punishment that way, right? Okay, there's my boundary. If I don't do the dishes at night, I'll do them in the morning. And I know this is just like really simplified, but just to give you an idea. And when it comes to like how do we go about it with self expectations? How do we apply standard with boundary with self expectations? Um, and they say work in when it comes to self expectations, and they're really emphasizing this. So I have to say this, and I really want you to remember this. When it comes to self expectation clearing and then shifting it, replacing it with a standard, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. They say you don't give yourself enough grace. None of us give ourselves enough grace if we don't meet our own standards or we don't meet our own expectations. They're saying you're better off to just love and forgive yourself and tell yourself it's okay than you are to be hard on yourself. They're saying being hard on yourself is never going to be productive. It's never going to be productive to be hard on yourself. It's always going to be more productive if you give yourself grace. Because if you give yourself grace, you're more likely to achieve that which it is that you want to achieve, that you feel like you're not achieving in the way that you want to, and whatever that looks like in your life. So, giving yourself grace for whatever it is you're not doing that you want to be doing. I watched a really great YouTube video the other day where she said, any decision you make is the right decision. I needed that because we will do that to ourselves. Any decision you make is the right decision. Give yourself that grace. Taking any expectations you have that you feel like might need to be transformed, not done away with. Some of them can be done away with. Like for me, the bottom stack of my work expectations, finance expectations, you know, they're not relative anymore. They were from when I was a teenager. Those can go in the burn barrel, dissolve, clear. Don't need that energy taken up by something that's not relative to my life anymore. But what if I have an expectation here of like, I'm a single mom. I need to provide for my daughter, and I need to do so in a way that I feel safe and that I feel comfortable and it's secure. I put a big expectation on myself to do that. Okay. But what's that create? That creates worry. That creates fear. That creates scarcity fear. That creates a lot that's going to just get in the way. So replacing that with a standard. I hold myself to a standard as her mother. I'm going to do everything that I can in my power to provide it for her as best as I can. That frees me up. That gives me grace. And whatever it is that I can do for her is enough because I'm doing my best. You see, that's grace. That's where you give yourself that grace. For career, for finances. Okay, take all of those ones that are not relevant, burn bowl, angels, clear, tear up, however you want to dispose of them. Take the ones that are still relevant to your life, transform them, elevate them to a higher standard. That way you're not being hard on yourself. You're not punishing yourself and you're not restricting yourself. Because again, this helps me because I can definitely go into avoidance. If I feel like overwhelmed, I will straight go into avoidance and nothing gets done. And then there's that perfection paralyzation because the expectations are too high. Like it just goes on and on. So you just clear those. And then you can just show up free, free, free to be you. Okay, thumbs up on that one. Now, let's do the expectations you have for your home. What are your expectations for your home? So funny, like I have a really big, tall expectations for my home, pile of expectations on myself. Huge. We can inherit expectations. I'm noticing the feeling in all of these expectations I put on myself in my home. Of course, I inherited them from my mom, and of course, we'll inherit them from family because we have so much patterning and programming in the home that comes from family members. And the angels want me to point out, and I should have said this right out the gate. But a good majority of the self expectations that we put on come from other people. So if someone else puts an expectation onto you and you accept it, you adopt it into a self expectation. So if someone puts an expectation onto you and you adopt it, it becomes a self expectation. Like the girl who gave me an Uber ride and she was feeling stressed out because there was that guy she didn't like, but he had an expectation of her. She accepted his expectation of her as a self and it turned it into a self expectation. And I hope I gave her permission to not accept it as a self expectation. I had to go all like mom mode on her. I was like, no, you don't. No, you don't owe that boy nothing. People will hand you their expectations, and if you accept them, that becomes a self expectation. So ask yourself, have I accepted any expectations from other people that I turned into a self expectation? I have got a big old freaking pile here. Woo, it goes like up to the roof. So shh, just melting them all down with healing light, melting them all down, melting them all down. Heavy ones, handing to the divine team, handing to the divine team, handing to the divine team. And they're sneaky. They're sneaky. When someone puts an expectation on you, it's hard not to feel an immediate sense of obligation to it. Especially, if you're a caring and giving person or you care about the person who's doing it to you. And you can still care about the person who's giving you expectations and still hold your sovereignty. But this is huge for psychic boundaries. This is huge for boundaries, psychic boundaries. This is huge for it. It's just clearing out those expectations. So, asking yourself, do I have any expectations that other people have offered me that I've accepted and turned into a self-expectation? If so, I clear those now. Any that you're ready to release, any that you're ready to release, any that you are ready to release. Mm. Okay, thumbs up. Okay, so, okay, it's home. Okay. Now relationships, because relationships are always going to be the ones where we get a lot of them. A lot of them, because we all have expectations in relationships. And the angels want me to tell you this. The angels want me to tell you this, so I'm going to tell it to you. It doesn't make you wrong or controlling to have a standard of how you expect to be treated in any interaction. You have a right to have a standard about how you want to be treated. That doesn't make you controlling. That doesn't make you a bad person. And make it your mantra. I have a right to be treated with respect. And anybody who does not treat me with respect, I have a right. I have a right to choose a, a boundary with them, a boundary with them, or to have no interaction with them at all whatsoever. That's a boundary. Or to shift their priority in your life. Okay. Clearing any expectations that other people have put on you. Ask the question, has anybody put any expectations on me in relationship? Or have I accepted any as my own personal expectations when it comes to relationships, family, friends, romantic partners, work colleagues, anybody? Although we just did career, but relationships. And I put a lot of expectations on myself as a healer. Because I want to make everything, I just want to fix everything for everybody. I just want to fix everything for everybody. That's all I want to do. And I got that from my mom. And I still want to do that. But my guides are always having to remind me that a person can only clear to the degree of readiness that they're in. It's not my job or my responsibility, and I shouldn't be putting that expectation on myself. And sometimes I will get a client that has a really high expectation, but if they're not in readiness, they're not in readiness. And there's nothing I can do about that. I can't put them in readiness. I can only hold space for them to clear what they're in readiness to clear. Help them with the heavy lifting or come in. But if somebody is in readiness, my session looks like a miracle. I look like a miracle worker, but it's not me. It's them. It's them just being in readiness. I love that most clients that come to me are just in a state of readiness. Not, it's just, I didn't set it up that way. The divine set it up that way. By the time someone comes to me, they're at the end of their journey of struggle. And they've arrived in the state where they're like, I'm ready to release all this. I'm ready. I don't need to carry any of this anymore. I got what I needed from it. And then, I love to get to be that part of their journey. But I still put that expectation on myself. Where are you putting an expectation on yourself? I can still show up as a wonderful, powerful healer and help people, but I don't have to put that expectation on myself to do everything for everybody either, because it's not my responsibility. It's only just whatever it is that I can, it's not my responsibility to do for them. It's just my responsibility as a healer when they sign up for a session with me to hold that space with their divine team to facilitate them in releasing what they're in readiness to release and just and coming in with all the components and tools and techniques that I have to do so, right? What is it that you put as an expectation on yourself in relationships? And I can show up a lot better for my clients if I don't put this heavy, like restrictive expectation on myself. If I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to trust that they're going to get as much as they can get, and I can give as much as I can give. And that's beautiful. That's the way it's supposed to be. And that's how it should be with every relationship, right? So clearing any expectations you put on yourself in relationships. They want me to talk about, okay, they want me to talk about, well, they're kind of picking on me, not picking on me in a mean way, but they're kind of singling me out here, the angels and guides, as like sample person when it comes to relationships because they're pointing out something that I do, and I've always done this. Um, I do tend to overgive. And caretake. I'm a caretaker and an overgiver. So, um, for example, my son is like 25. He's about to be 26. And I still just like, oh, let me make you dinner. Oh, let me do your laundry. Oh, let me do all the things for you. And that's my love language, right? And it's okay to have a love language of giving and acts of service. But is it coming from that or is it coming from some expectation I have on myself that the people in my life aren't going to know that I love them if I'm not like doing all this stuff for them, right? So I can release myself of that because he does not put that expectation on me. I mean, he appreciates it. I'm sure he appreciates it. I'm like, you want to come over for dinner? But he doesn't like expect me to say. And I think maybe sometimes he would be glad if I wasn't like, come over for dinner because he's a young man trying to live his young man life. He doesn't need his mom all up in his business all the time? And I totally respect that. So you think your kids do expect that from you? Well, look for expectations. Do you see any expectations from your kids? Hmm? Yeah, let's clear them. Let's clear them. And transform them, right? Transform them. And just remember, if it's your standard that you have on yourself, it's my standard as a mom to give to my kids as much as I can. That's different. And then an expectation, like if I don't give this to my kids, I'm going to feel really bad. Hold on, the angels are roping me back because they wanted me to go. They didn't, they feel like I didn't complete what they wanted me to complete. So what is it they wanted me to complete? They let me know if I get off topic. They rope me back and they want me to complete. What do they want me to complete? When I was in relationships with a man, I would always take care of them. I would always take responsibility for their mental and emotional and spiritual energy state. I was always taking responsibility for their energetic state, for their emotional state, for their mental state. I was just naturally, I had an expectation I put on myself to take responsibility for their mental, emotional, spiritual state. And so I was always managing their mental, emotional, spiritual state because I put that expectation on myself. Now, granted, they may have put it on me as well, or I may have put it on myself. So either I know that the expectation that I put on myself comes from my mom because she was like that in her relationships. But I may have attracted men who would put that on me as well. So that just compounded it. I mean, yeah, like I'm not complaining. Like that's partly why I'm such a good healer, is because I've got a lot of experience. But they don't always want it, and that's That's that defining difference is that do they want it? A client who comes to me wanting that, awesome. But if I'm in a relationship with someone and I'm just like, can I let me fix that for you? And they're not ready to have it fixed, it's not really my space or my right. Or I shouldn't be having to do that. And you don't want to have to be that in your relationship, you know? You don't want to have to be their healer or their mother or their anything. You just want them to be a partner, right? All healers do that. All healers do that. If you're a natural healer, you're going to find yourself doing that in a relationship, putting a self-expectation of accepting responsibility for their mental emotional state. But what ends up happening when we do that? We're feeler courting them. Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? And then we get resentful. And clearing expectations, whoa, that's like pulling out the root of this big, massive problem plant in your life. The root is the expectation, pulling out that root. So, okay, I'm checking with the angels. No, they're saying there's still more they wanted me to talk about when it comes to relationship expectations. But they're saying I'm doing okay staying on point. They're so good at keeping me like on track. So there is that where you end up putting a self expectation to assume responsibility for their state. Oh, their desires. Oh, that's a big one, right? Their desires. They put that expectation on you that you're responsible for meeting their or satisfying their desires. Like it's your duty, it's your responsibility. And that goes way back. That goes way back, right? That's what women were seeing. Oh, women's job is to just like have babies and satisfy a man's desires. And then corn culture, right, has got men feeling entitled to a woman to satisfy his desires because what's he doing every time he gets on the phone or gets on the computer and it's always there at the touch of a button. And so that's programming in his mind that that's what women are. Women are there to just satisfy his desires at the touch of a button, at his whim. And so he looks at women in the world and he thinks that that's what women owe him. And a man will put that expectation on a woman too. And women will accept that. Well, I have to be desirable. Well, I have to get a boob job. Well, I have to get all collagen in my lips. Is that what it's called? Botox? All those things that women do to feel beautiful, to meet their own expectation of what they think beauty is, or maybe his expectation of what beauty is, or society's expectation of what beauty is. You see how deep it can really go when you start to explore it, what we do to ourselves, or what women do to themselves, or what relationships will do. Sometimes a woman will put an expectation on herself if I don't meet all of these beauty standards, or if I don't satisfy his desire expectations, then he's going to cheat on me or he's going to abandon me. And that abandonment will, and then that self expectation. So, like, it can create a lot. And you just clear all that, free yourself from that shit. No, no, we are not here to accept expectations to satisfy men's desires. No, we're not. Period. Period. For anybody's desires. Men, women, whatever. Doesn't matter who it's coming from. Work, friends, clients, anybody in your life. No, you're not here to satisfy their desires or their expectations. You can show up. You show up and hold that space and hold that frequency and hold that love, and you're going to be able to do so much better once you clear those expectations. So releasing all those expectations in relationships. The angels are actually giving me applause, and I'm really surprised that they are because I went off in a lot of directions on that one, and they had to rope me back a few times, but they're still like saying like, yes, you got what it was that they wanted me to share. I said what they wanted me to say. Because it's just common, right? It's how we lose a lot of our energy and power. So clearing all those expectations, clear them. If you've got expectations on you from a man to meet his desires, clear it. No. Or from anyone to meet their desires, clear it. No, no. No, it's choice. It's got to be choice. It's got to be choice or the energy's not right with it, right? Okay. But they are saying that we can release any expectations we're putting out in relationships. So am I putting out any expectations in relationships? And usually my expectations are going to have a lot to do with how I expect to be treated. They're saying I've done a pretty good job of elevating most of my expectations to standards. So, but this is something they've been working with me on for a long time. So thankfully, I have made some progress in this regard. And it does take you a long way in your level of emotional mastery and mastering your emotions. You know, emotional and mental mastery is so much easier to achieve when you're just clearing out all those expectations. Clearing expectations other people put on you, releasing the expectations you're putting out, just like all of those. And you can just ask, like, okay, you can take it into three categories. Any expectations that I put on myself, stacks of paper, clear them. Any expectations that other people are putting on me, clearing them. Any expectations I'm putting out to other people, clearing them. Transforming them to standards with a boundary, transforming them to standards. And you don't have to like mentally itemize this. Your intention can be, I'm going to transform all my expectations to standards with boundary. And this may not be something that you're going to do all in this one moment. This is like moving forward. Moving forward, when you start to notice, like, oh, I caught myself in an expectation and I'm losing some energy through this. Because I don't want to be mad at this person for breaking my expectation. I'm going to drain my energy to them that way. I'm going to turn this into a standard with a boundary and see what happens. And don't push yourself on the boundaries. And that's what the angels mean by grace. Like, don't force yourself to have some really intense boundary that's going to be hard for you to enforce. You know, I'll do that with Violet. I'll be like, if you don't eat your food, then I'm not going to give you ice cream later, but then I'm going to give her ice cream later. You know, I got to create a boundary that I can enforce. You got to do that for ourselves and for other people. It's like just like kids, right? You got to choose a boundary that you're going to enforce. The angels love it when we clear expectations. They love this because they say that it will just make a really big difference because we can clear ourselves all day long, every single day, but we want to be getting to the root of where it's all coming in from anyway. And expectations are going to help to take a lot of that root out. Self expectations and then expectations from others, and then those that we accept as our own. And it does help to get into those different aspects of your life. If you can't find any, like, okay, home, got the home, work, got most of the work, relationships. I still have some more I could clear with relationships. See, that's why it's helpful. Like, I'm asking, do I have expectations? I'm not seeing anything. But then when I start to get specific with it, that's when I'm starting to see some. So if you're looking for them and you're not finding any, you just, okay, what if you get specific with it? Then you might find some. So moving forward, starting to notice in your interactions with other people, if somebody does something and you get angry or upset, ask yourself, did I have an expectation towards them? Is there a way that I can clear that? Is it something I can clear? Is it something that I can transform into a standard with a boundary so that you can keep your power? Because when you have a standard and a boundary, you're in charge of how you feel. You're in charge of your energy. Their behavior is not going to have any effect on how you feel because you're sovereign. But with an expectation, their behavior is going to have all the effect of how you feel. And if somebody can affect how you feel, if somebody's behavior has going to have any impact on how you feel, well, then they have power over you. And you lose your energy that way. And you don't want to be giving your energy away because you're sovereign. I love you guys so much. Yeah, expectation clearing. I wish I was a little more structured with it. If I would have known this was going to be the one the angels would pick for today, I would have done better notes. But I think we all did it good, and you have a framework and an idea and a concept to work from for continued expectation clearing. You're going to be like really surprised at how much this frees you moving forward after doing expectation clearing. It's going to blow your mind. You'll see. Okay. Okay, I love you. Love you. Bye.